Studio. It's Leah Long with the National Federation of Independent Small Business, serves as the director for that organization for Mississippi and Louisiana. Hey, Leah.
Hey, thanks for having me on this morning.
You bet. Good to have you. So give us an update on how small businesses are feeling about the economy and the outlook as we head into the busy shopping holiday season.
Yeah, so the latest results of our monthly survey is it is unfortunately a little bit lower. Optimism's a little bit lower, still higher than it has been in the past few years. But, costs are high and, hiring is still tough for these small business owners. And we've had a little bit of slowing sales and obviously the supply chain issues the last couple of, months, especially, it's added to the economic uncertainty that these business owners are feeling right now.
Okay, what do they need to see, I guess, to feel a little better? Because we're seeing consumer sentiment, which, of course, drives spending at these small businesses. It also is fairly low, as a matter of fact. The recent surveys by the University of Michigan who tracks that. So the consumers aren't feeling great about the situation either. What do you think?
I think it's just a balancing act between the consumers, the business owners, and, like I said, everything that's been going on in the economy. And, we talk about hiring on here all the time, which I know Governor Reeves put out that, hey, one of his biggest things for 2027 is workforce development in the state of Mississippi. And so right now, 27% of small business owners report that labor quality and hiring is one of their biggest issues. And so, you have the jobs, but you got to have the people to work there. You got to have people to go to work to be able to spend the money so they can invest back in Mississippi. And I think that's something that we've got to focus on in 2026 and 2027 for sure.
Leah, what are they saying about the cost of labor?
Cost of labor, everything's getting more expensive. We talk about that. It's just everything is, super high right now. You still have business owners dealing with inflation. That didn't change overnight. You're still doing that. Supply chain issues, things have got more expensive to get. And so the cost of labor to hire and employ people are more expensive now. And it's a balancing act toward the end. When things are more expensive, does that small business owner eat the cost of that, or do they pass it on to consumers, which obviously affects consumer spending?
Sure. The one thing they do have some clarity about, you and I have talked about before, is the tax environment. So fortunately, we got the Trump tax cuts that were passed in 2017 extended, made permanent, especially for the pass-through deduction, as you know, I suspect that many of your members take advantage of. That was a big thing. That was critical. Their tax bill would have gone up by as much as 20%, which is significant. Yes. Had that not been extended.
Absolutely. That was a huge win with this administration and, added to more, future planning for these business owners. Like you said, it would affect every small business owner. A lot of that could take a small business owner out. 20% tax hike, that's crazy. And so, we're thankful for that. We're thankful that it got signed and that did, move forward. And we always love opportunities like that. And so obviously, Mississippi's lowered their personal income tax rate and continues to do that. I love doing Louisiana and Mississippi. It's a competition every legislative session. Who's going to do what? And so, I think as Mississippi continues to make it more business friendly, it's going to be a better environment for these small business owners also.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, are there any other policies that your members are in particular interested in that, let's talk about the state of Mississippi, of course, that's our audience. You've probably been made aware of the legislative priorities that our Speaker, our Lieutenant Governor, our Governor, those are the three key leaders in the lawmaking process, have espoused for the coming 26th session. Anything you guys are watching there?
We just obviously continue to watch, the overreach of, mandates on business owners. So we try to, keep involved in that and make sure it's not too tough for these business owners. But like I said, workforce development is going to be a huge thing. And we talk about insurance, we talk about the cost of health insurance, and, that's a battle that they're fighting all over the country. So anywhere that we can lower those insurance costs for business owners is going to be great too. And, move into holiday session. Of course, we start January 6th in Mississippi, so it'll be here before we know it. But, we're coming up on the holiday season, and that's a huge season for small business owners. And so I always love to throw in that 67 cents of every dollar that you spend in a small business stays in that community. And so I
Hmm.
always love to throw the number that 47% of the workforce in Mississippi is employed by small business owners. So
Yeah.
remember that.
So, absolutely. So, with respect to health insurance, that's been something that's gotten a lot of attention on the national landscape with the shutdown of the government and so forth. Do your members have kind of a position on that? Do most of your members offer group coverage to their employees? If they've got fewer, as you know, than 50 employees, they're not compelled by government to do so.
If they're able to, some do or some don't. It's just business, individually how they do it, and that adds to finding a qualified worker. You want to
Yeah.
offer a great compensation package and benefits to your employees, but it always takes a lot of capital if you are hiring in a small business because you don't usually have an HR team available. If it's a 10 or less employees, I mean, you're sitting there training that person and investing your own capital into that employee, and you hope that they stay. So as a small business owner, you want to offer your employees the best benefits that you can based on, your profits and loss ratio.
Yeah. It is the issue with the employment, which I think every time you come on, of course, that's a major issue, and it's a major issue across the country. Seems to be more so for small businesses than it does many of the bigger corporations. Heck, many of them are shedding employees right now. Is it a qualifications issue, or it's a numbers problem? There just aren't enough people out there that are looking for work. There's an imbalance. All the above.
It's kind of all the above. And you think about industries, construction industry, transportation industry, those kind of being able to find those qualified workers. And I know Mississippi spent a lot of time investing in, community colleges and trade school programs, public-private
Right.
programs to be able to get people in these jobs. And I think
Right.
that's important too. And, whether you're in a big company or not, sometimes, those contract jobs that are in a big plant or in a big shipbuilding plant might be an independent contractor that's using their business for that. So they've got to have those employees too.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. What about, we've talked about state. We've done a good job, I think, in the state of Mississippi. We're phasing out the income tax. I feel like we have a fairly business-friendly regulatory environment. Anything along those lines your members talk about they'd like to see perhaps relaxed? I know the permitting process in Mississippi, I think we still got some work to do there in certain industries.
Yeah, definitely the permitting process is something I would love to see kind of reformed and revised, make it easier if people want to go to work and build something and do that. We should be able to let them do that. It does add to the economy in Mississippi. So I would love to see a little bit of reform done on that in this next session for sure.
Okay. A couple of high-profile matters we're going to be watching in Mississippi are the issue of education freedom, school choice. Our Speaker of the House has said that's a top priority. It is his top priority. Do your members talk about that? Do they have a position?
We don't necessarily engage the members on, school choice and education, but, it
Okay.
always comes down to education in the community. You keep your people there. And so I think it all kind of plays hand in hand, but we've never
Yeah.
fully engaged their position on it.
Okay. We have the issue of mobile sports betting that I think is going to come up again here in Mississippi. Any particular position there from your members?
No, we don't have a position on that. It's kind of each their own on that.
Okay. What is your group lobbying for these days at the federal level? What do you need for small businesses?
So the beneficial ownership, we've talked about that a lot. That was kind of pushed off, and so we're hoping to eventually get that made where it's not into law because there was actually quite a few businesses in Mississippi that complied with that. It was an overreach of information, basically. I know we've talked on here a lot, but the fines were insane. If you didn't complete it, it was like $1,000 a day,
Yeah.
even jail time. So just continue to watch those things as they come up. To not in fear on small business owners and the information that the Secretary of State already has. So that's a big thing that we're going to continue to watch, and hopefully that kind of stays pushed away for a while.
Okay. The midterms coming up in about a year. Do you guys have some thoughts, concerns, desires there at this point?
I mean, we obviously want to continue on the federal level to make sure that it stays as business friendly as possible. And so we'll continue to engage in that when it's necessary. And hopefully we continue to do well. I mean, the tax break, the 20% tax deduction was huge. So we're kind of staying on that high right now and thanking the federal people for that.
And the immediate expensing is a big issue too, is it not, for your members?
It definitely is. Definitely is. So watching that and continue to engage as things change.
Yep. Leah Long, the director for the National Federation of Independent Small Business for Mississippi and Louisiana, has been our guest. Always enjoy talking to you, Leah. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
We're coming right back from the Element Wealth studio.